Hi Foster, here we are again.
Still on our accidental business owner journey, but I feel like it's just a business journey.
Of course.
On our business in-between channel. This is, if you are keeping count, our 4th episode with Di. Thanks again for joining us in Hamilton. First episode, accidental business owners, that's what we are.
Yep, you are.
Second episode, how did we get here? What were the things that we did better than anybody else? How did we sharpen our axe?
Yep.
Our last episode, if you tuned in,
It was a goodie.
it was a little bit of an emotional one. What do we really want?
Business can get emotional, guys.
And I think that's the lesson.
It's normal.
Also, business can serve your ass to yourself. Steve said just before we recorded that, I'm in control. And he ended up having a few tears.
But I loved that.
I loved it.
That was really good. I feel like that was one of the best business meetings that we've ever had. It was just a shame we recorded it and put it out to the world. Or a superpower.
It's really funny, the dynamic. In one of the earlier episodes, we spoke about how, I had Paul Nixon on and we put a microphone and it gave us permission to talk about things we wouldn't otherwise. And then Shay and I have had this kind of breakthrough where I've let my guard down. I've said, yeah, man, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So
here we are.
What are we talking about today, man?
Episode 4, why haven't you done it already? So I'm assuming this would be for the people out there that maybe are putting barriers up, or even if we put a lens on ourselves, why did it take us so long to get here?
Yeah. Why did it take you so long to, end up in business for yourselves? Why did it take so long to double down on what you do and make it commercially viable?
Nah, see, I'm going to flip it, Di, because you were asking a lot of questions.
Man, let's get that control back.
So I want to start with you. What we spoke about you sharpening your axe and being a overnight success after 10 years, but why did it take 10 years plus?
I think there's a couple of reasons. My world got really, really, really small 14 years ago when I was unwell. And it was part of my superpower is that I let it get really, really, really small. And I didn't live in a place of, I used to be able to do this, or I've done this, or I thought I'd be here. So I allowed my world to get really small. And in doing so, my world opened up a little bit when, I got pregnant with my son and I had my son, and my world both got smaller and opened up. And then when I started back into work, I started with my management contract stuff, but I knew that I wanted to lean into doing something much more for myself. And, after about 5 years, I thought, I could start telling people about my story. And I started a bit of a wellness foster business, and I soon realised that wasn't me. And I sort of shifted. But essentially, I think that there's two things. Every time I talked about what I wanted to do, I was so frustrated that I wasn't making it happen. I was so frustrated with myself. And the conversation that I didn't have with myself is now the right time? I didn't give myself permission to sharpen my axe in my own way. I was constantly disappointed with myself. And when I look back at it now, I didn't have that framework of business is really important to me, and it is a huge part of my identity. And at this age that my child's at, and at this phase of my life, it's okay that it's a very small part. And so I think I put the handbrake on myself because of what I'd been through, and because that my health is so important, because also I'm not sure that I knew how to live the life I'm living now and look after myself and have an amazing relationship with my family, with my husband and my son.
There will be listeners listening to this who haven't listened to your episode on our Between Two Beers channel, and I highly recommend you do that. But just to catch them up to speed, we're talking about your journey through terminal cancer. Yep. And you were given a 0% chance to survive longer than 12 months, and you're still here 14 years later?
Yeah, 14 and a half years later.
So it needs that context for the backdrop of what you're talking about. Health is obviously top of mind.
Well, because if you're not here. The other part to that, which I don't even think in the podcast that we made really clear, is, so this is short version, people, is I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I did radiotherapy, chemotherapy and surgery. And then 7 years later, I was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer, secondary breast cancer, because it had metastasized into my lungs. And at that stage, I was given 0% chance of lasting longer than 12 months and definitely not 18, like no way. But the thing that's, if you're thinking, that's not unusual or whatever, the thing that's unusual about that is that I did no treatment. I did no medical treatment after that diagnosis, so my body innately healed. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, to be here and to be grateful and, to do all those things. But then there's also this burning desire in me to do certain things in the world. And, I think that it's that tension that I had to make sure that I learnt how to look after myself so that I could do this work. I think I said to Seamus before we started today, the last 10 days have been a bit of a wild ride, and I knew that I was a little bit, to quote, a little bit upregulated. I knew that I was sort of riding that high, and I was getting a bit jittery. I call it, I've got the jitters, and so I knew that last night when I got to Rotorua, I said to my mate, I don't care what we do today, I just need to go into that forest and I need to be in nature, and then I need to go and have we went to the hot pools. And, I went to bed last night and I slept the best I have in a long time, and all in preparation for today, because I can't keep up-regulating, because then I'm going to end up with a problem. So,
yeah, it's really interesting, because I felt I've had a particularly challenging week, personally and professionally, and last night I felt that as well. But my solution was I need to work really hard to feel like I'm getting on top of the little tasks. So I sleep deprived myself to feel like I could start the day at the start line.
And so I had done that for 14 days. I've sleep deprived myself for 14 days and knew that I was getting to the end of that. So I've been waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, admittedly, I'm always up at 5 anyway, so it's not a big shift. And I've been at the office and I've been getting all of those little things done, but I knew that I was getting towards the end of that.
So how important is that self-awareness piece in someone's business journey, I guess, like knowing where you're at in terms of redlining and managing, and how do you communicate that to someone as well, of being like, look, dude, I just got to down tools today and just not be present?
Well, I think hopefully, you get to the stage where I'm doing that every day in micro moments in my day. So in between clients, I'm whipping out, taking my shoes off on the grass if I feel like I need to. But then I know that for me, once a week is a preventative thing. If I can get to the beach with my shoes off and have an hour, even if it's raining or whatever, that regulates me. So hopefully, I know that I've been okay with the last 2 weeks being a bit mad, because it's a bit of a life-changing, couple of weeks. So,
you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, boys. My life has changed. But, I knew that was going to, pretty much I know next week I'm back into the routine of really looking after myself in a preventative way, because that's obviously, given my history, I need to focus on that.
Yeah, when someone gives you like some advice that seems really obvious, like I've done the course with Dave Wood. You're talking about some of the principles that Dave Wood is talking about.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why I didn't put some of those things in practice myself. Micro breaks, getting out into nature, like all of those things that when you're on the 2-day intensive, you're going, oh man, this all makes sense. And then you drop back into real life and you go, oh, I don't have time to do that story that you tell yourself. Oh, I can't, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It's like, no, you don't.
I obviously love Dave Wood's course, but one of the things that I would say, and like I've just started, quite often I speak at that as well. Like that's one of the courses that you went on I wasn't at, which is one of the few ones. But one of the things that I do talk about is how you take it away with you. And so it's not about doing all of the things, it's about doing the things that are important. So one thing that I've noticed for myself in a really preventative way, at the beach once a week. That's me. If I do that, then that makes a huge shift. I also know that doing breath work in the morning isn't going to shift my state during the day as much as micro breaks are going to have an impact on me. So yeah, I hear you.
It's funny you as you get older, I find that exactly that you find out what works for you and you strip away what doesn't.
Yeah.
So I went through a stage where I read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Right. And I was like, holy shit, what a game changer this book is. And he's got this like journal that you can buy and you keep track of your habits.
Habit tracker.
Habit tracker. Yeah. And so for about...
You've seen the blank one up in my house? It's like sitting up there with nothing written on it.
So for about 6 weeks, I was doing, tracking my habits, and on it would be like stretching, cold immersion, breathing exercises, go for a run, whatever it is. And the days when I felt best had the most ticks in the boxes, and I was sticking at it and it was feeling really good for about 6 weeks. And then I can't remember now why, but it just slowly fell apart. And I just didn't stop doing all of the things except cold immersion. So the cold shower is the one that has stuck with me. I've been doing it for 4 years, and I've recently added swimming. So that's for me is my time. I've been for a swim at 5:30 the last 2 mornings, and I feel so much better because of it.
So good.
I've found those things that work for me in my schedule.
So one thing I'd say is that 4 years ago, you possibly had too many things on the list in terms of expectations. So the more advanced sort of version of the habit tracker is your non-negotiables every day. So I would recommend that it's 1 to 3 and no more.
Yep.
And then maybe some things that you want to do once a week. So for me, that's going to the beach. It becomes a non-negotiable because otherwise our habit tracker ends up being our task list. But if those things are important to you, then you need to find them in your schedule. And if they're not in your schedule, then you won't do them.
Yes.
I think that's how I run. So I've found in the past I've tried to put too much in, and when I strip it back, I'm a cold shower girl too, and without exception I do it every day, and that's my non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of non-negotiables that I
love that. The cold shower, I got asked that on the weekend, why do you do it? And it's not because of any of the scientific benefits or anything like that. It's just the psychological win, and especially in the middle of winter, it's I get in that shower and I've got an easy option and a hard option, and it's like if I can conquer that, and it'll be the hardest thing I do for the day, and every shower I have is cold every time, and it just feels like fuck, all right, I can't
Do you do
lose.
cold the whole shower?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you wash your legs?
Yeah. Legs take care of themselves. It's hard to get down there.
Just don't feel like it would feel as clean with just cold water running down your legs.
Hey, I want to take control of this
Go for it, man.
What a surprise.
Go for it. I did well for 3 years.
which may surprise you. So the line we've got on the page for this one is, why haven't you done it already?
Yep.
And when we were prepping for the 1 minute we talked before we came on, you said you were going to cry.
Oh, yeah, but I won't. I think...
No, but why was that your reaction?
So part of the business... Oh, look at my body.
I know.
Changed straight away.
Yeah, because there was a shit-ass question, a way of asking it. Geez, Steve, can I just take control of this from you?
Yeah, I'm just the passenger in this whole episode.
You can unfold your arms now.
Tennis match, left to right.
So here's the thing, is that sometimes it's age, stage and phase, and sometimes around why we haven't done it yet is because we've got some interesting stories that we tell ourselves, and we've got some super interesting beliefs based. So things happen, then we have stories, and then from those stories we have beliefs and thoughts. So I'm super interested, Seamus.
You feel like I feel like you've got a precursor.
That's a better intro. Yeah, that's a better lead-in.
That's how you ask.
You're good at this, bedside manner.
Somebody told me I asked good questions.
Yeah, I said that. So you're right. My probably business experience, I feel like I carry a lot of scars about still, and that was when I was in Papua New Guinea, and I was the CEO of the FIFA Under 20 Women's World Cup. So the local organising committee, not the whole thing. So I was in charge of the body that was responsible for getting Papua New Guinea ready to host this world event. And it didn't go in my mind, it didn't go particularly well. One, because we ran a huge budget overrun. Two, like suppliers were not paid at the end. Three, financially, it ruined me personally. And four, as the CEO, I felt responsible for all of those things. So I've, since that experience, been really gun-shy about being at the head of anything, leading anything, being the focal point or the spokesperson, or just taking charge of things. And I'm way more comfortable letting other people do that, so that I'm out of the firing line. So that's part of the reasons why a lot of the business stuff that we do, I can be quite hands off and be very like, I'll just go with the flow. And I think in a previous episode spoke about I'll do things in the shadows, I'll do things in the background that'll help, but I don't jump up and down, or I do them because I am a Game of Thrones fanatic, and Littlefinger was my favorite character, who put chess pieces in different places to achieve an outcome longer term, but did it cloak and dagger in a sort of a way. So that time of being at the front and being the person, it didn't fill me with any great joy. And it took me a long time to rebuild after I came home from PNG. And that whole PNG thing kind of set a few dominoes in terms of health, in terms of looking after myself, in terms of, what did I write down there?
Financially?
Financially. Yeah, I lost, there was, without wanting to put too much of a number on it, I think 35,000 of savings that I had. I invested into trying to float a sinking ship. So looking after my own costs up there when I didn't need to be.
Yeah.
I didn't get paid for 6 months of my contract, so I prioritized paying everybody else first before I paid myself. It took a toll on me physically, emotionally, and mentally, and I'm coming out of it now.
Yeah.
But it's definitely stung my confidence.
So the question that I would have for you is, because of the story that you've told yourself about that, because we can probably shift some of that, and maybe look at it slightly differently. What about that do you not want to take forward? Like the person that you see in that story, like what is the beliefs or the thoughts that you have on a regular basis that you don't think are going to serve you, because now you know actually where you want to go and what you want to do?
Probably not paying attention to the detail.
Yeah.
Not being across a lot of the detail. Trust. Yeah. Trusting people to do things that they would say they would do, and then them not doing it.
Yeah.
And also because I signed everything off. It's my signature on everything. So without going into too much, so I went through a forensic audit with PwC Australia, and hopefully not too many people out there have been through forensic audits, but I can tell you it's not a pleasant experience.
No.
And I was getting grilled on, essentially they were accusing me of embezzling money. And I kind of was sitting on the phone in Hamilton, at my mum's house, overweight, miserable, broke, being like, who the fuck are you to accuse me of taking all this money when I'm sitting, you've got no idea what it was like operating in those conditions, and you've got no idea the fallout of what it is. And I get it, that's their job. It's not their job to care. Their job is just to chase the money and to find out where everything went. So, that was
And your job is to answer the questions.
Totally.
And not take it personally.
Yeah, which I didn't do at all.
Which is really interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the time we confuse, a commercial transaction with all of the emotions. I've been through Christchurch earthquakes. It's like you have insurance on a house. Hopefully they come to the party and do the right thing. But at the end of the day, it's a commercial transaction. And so it is really interesting that all of that emotion comes into that audit.
Yeah. And that's exactly how, it was intensely personal. You signed that.
Yeah.
Where did the money go? You've got a list of 20 people that said they got money, but they don't have any bank accounts. All there is a withdrawal of cash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you don't understand. People don't have bank accounts in Papua New Guinea. I did what I had to do to get the tournament delivered. And it just deaf ears.
So let me ask you this. What lessons did you get from that experience?
Contracts are quite critical.
Yeah.
Read the fine print.
Yeah.
Don't fly by the seat of your pants.
So let me ask you this: if you keep going forward and going, I don't want to be across the detail, like I'm going to let everyone else do it. What's the opportunity cost of that? Like, what's the risk that you run if you keep believing that, you're not the person to be across that?
Yeah, well, I think what I do now is I don't display my full knowledge and the benefit that I can actually bring to the business and the business situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where's that going to lead?
Oh, probably frustration on my own side.
Where else is it going to lead?
Probably to the business not being very successful.
Or not as successful as it could be.
Yes, not as successful as it could be.
So here's the thing.
Yeah, so black and white with some of my interpretations.
So black and white.
Yeah.
So, the way I see it, and this is, one of my famous things, is let me state what is obvious that you may be missing. Boys. Yeah, old sunshine and unicorns and rainbows over there is, Steve brings all of the sunshine and unicorns and rainbows to this situation. And I love that. Like, he fills a room with his optimism. I love that. And we need that. And he is the problem. Like, that is a problem when you are unicorns and rainbows. But he does that because it perfectly balances your experience and your miserableness. Now, so you are the solution to his problem, which is unicorns and rainbows, but actually he is the solution to your problem. Now, if we could just stop getting as both being quite so extreme, then that's a really, really, really cool place to work from. When you know that you're unicorns and rainbows and sunshine, and you know that because your experience, you are going to show up. You're going to show up because you do have that experience and you are a little bit pessimistic, or you will point out what could go wrong, which is fantastic, because we need to take that. We need to take the things that might go wrong and build resilience in the financials and build the resilience in the business. So, the way I look at it is, if you don't show up and say, geez, I've been through the ringer, but I'm going to show up again and I'm going to bring all the lessons that I learnt, and I'm going to be the part of this that makes this extremely successful.
Yes, it's hard to play that role sometimes because I don't want to yuck his yum all the time. Yeah,
yeah, nice. We used that in the Holloway house.
Yeah, and it's and sometimes it's easier to not be the miserable one.
Well, in a more perfect world, where we'll build towards is, at times you will be the rainbows and unicorns and sunshine, and you'll be like, shit, but what about this? And you'll be like, it'll be okay. We've got this because we've done these things.
Yeah.
Because you're right. If you ever meet my dad and I, who have been into business for a long time together in different aspects, he just comes through and everything's perfect, and I have to play the pessimistic, come on, But I know that, also on some ways he might tell me all the things that could go wrong, and I'm the person that then has to go, yeah, but look over here and look at this, and this is all working. So you're right, it's too much to always be Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
One thing I'll observe from the sidelines here is that I've obviously been best mates with Shay through all of these phases, and I was hyper aware of the loss of confidence, and I feel like really recently, and I know it's been a lot going on specifically in the last week or so, that it seems like you've turned a corner, and it seems like you are really believing in yourself, and you're starting to actually, like Di says, realize your genius zone, and that you're really good at these things, and that your confidence is back. That's my observation.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that. Like, it's, I thought, fuck, damn it. I have this weird thing where I'm almost embarrassed to be really good at stuff. And my really good things I know are really, really good. But sometimes there's just this thing that just doesn't allow it to shine through. And I don't know what it is that stops that. And it's weird. Like I almost self-cap my ability or like downplay what I'm really good at. And I don't know, just sometimes I just want to get out of my own way or get out of my own head and just like allow it to go, like handbrake off and just go. But
so what would be the worst thing that could happen if you just took the handbrake off and stepped into that space?
Oh, I don't know.
What would be the worst thing that happened if you didn't do that?
Well, I don't know either.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean, like, you just don't fulfill your potential.
Yeah. What does that actually mean?
You live a less suboptimal. I don't know. I'm searching for the right answer, but I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, I know, but we don't need to have the right answer. We can just have an answer. These boys like the right answer.
Are you going to point? Are you going to point out the obvious that I'm missing out here?
No, you can keep going for a bit.
Okay, I'll keep scrambling around.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
What would happen if you were really good and stepped into, like your genius zone, whatever that means?
A whole bunch of opportunities and possibilities would present themselves.
Yep. And what would that mean?
I get to pick and choose the things that I do.
Yep. What's the risk of that? What's the downside of being in demand and people wanting your time? And what would be the downside of that?
I always have this thing about letting people down.
Ah, interesting.
Oh, right. Is that what you wanted to get me?
Isn't that interesting? Because, there's a trust issue. So you don't want to be that person that lets someone else down.
Yeah.
So you stop those opportunities before they happen.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to live, isn't it?
Maybe.
I fucking love that. Di has written trust down on her little notepad about halfway through this episode, and she's gotten her way back there and tied a nice little bow on it.
I think the other thing that's kind of interesting is when you talk about cleaning up after the boys, being on the floor with them, and you're like, was that the best use of my time? If I had a crystal ball, I would say that's your way of staying humble. I would say that you already know where you're going, and one of your greatest fears is to be too big for your boots.
Yeah.
And so that's your way of saying, I will never, ever be too good than to look after other people.
Yeah, I couldn't have probably said that as well as you've articulated, but that's pretty accurate, yeah.
And I think that you want to do that for no reward, like monetary reward.
Yeah.
And that's really important, that you never ever, that you just do that because you want to. And then I think that if you're going to do that, that's why you have to let the other side go and let that fly, because you're only going to be able to do that if you get paid well for the other things that you do.
Shit, that's good, Di.
Yeah, it's really good.
Can see what all the fuss is about.
I thought the last episode was really good.
Well, all right. Shall we tie a
bow around that and let me go away for the next couple of weeks and think about that?
We think about that and tell me what you think.
Well, if you're enjoying it, watch the previous episodes on YouTube. They're all on our Business In Between channel. More of Di Foster at difoster.com. You're on socials and everything as well, aren't you?
Yeah, difoster.live on Instagram and Facebook. And but LinkedIn probably is a good place to connect with me. And do reach out and connect. I love connections. That's why we're here.
We'll turn over some more stones in the next episode.